It's not a reform budget, is it? But it's going to be one that's hard to attack. Would you agree with that?
Well, Tom, I think I heard Tanya Plibersek on Sky this morning. I think she nailed it. She called it the Morrison keeper budget. It's all about keeping Scott Morrison and Josh Frydenberg in their jobs. You know, after
JobKeeper worked well keeping in jobs. Is it going to work well for them to keep in jobs?
It's very political. You know, there's a lot of spending in areas to cover over the problems that they created. Over 8 years, there's been cuts to aged care and women's health that Scott Morrison oversaw much of this. He cut aged care himself. So they created all these problems. Now they're trying to cover their political tracks effectively with a budget. What gets me about this is the lack of vision in looking at investing in Australia's future economy, looking at the structural reform necessary for long-term gains, that is investing in things like education and healthcare that we know, economists know, will actually increase productivity, increase the tax base, make us a more innovative, creative, knowledge workforce. That's not happening. So he's missed it. I think Josh Frydenberg has missed the big opportunity and has lacked courage on this budget.
You mentioned education and healthcare. They were huge budget debates in previous elections, and then the coalition tipped a whole lot of extra money into them and basically matched Labor. So what are they missing there?
Well, there's been nothing for higher education. And, you know, in this particular budget, you've got this issue with, obviously, with international students and aged care. They've put money into aged care, but let's look at the workforce for aged care. Where's the training? I know they've tried to cover their tracks on lack of apprenticeships. They're now falling back on this position where, yeah, we're going to pump money into aged care to try and paper over the problems we've created, but what about the workforce?
Well,
what about trainees? What about TAFE? What about all of those areas?
They said they're very happy with the package, that this is serious reform and it will go about increasing the workforce as well. And some of the work's to be done, but they see this as genuine reform.
There are 2 million unemployed Australians. There's been long-term underemployment, particularly over the last 8 years. They've thrown $100 billion at this budget, and we're going to go to $1 trillion in debt by 2024, and they still haven't got that skills mix right. They still haven't worked that out.
2 million unemployed? There's not 2 million unemployed Australians.
Well, whatever the figure is, at 3 or 4, 5%, whatever their projections.
It's not 2 million.
Well, I don't know. What's 4% of the workforce? You figure it out.
Yeah, but the workforce is only about 15 million.
There are unemployed Australians, and they are not...
Where's 2 million from?
What do you mean, where's 2 million from? Well, okay, 4.5. What is the current unemployment figure? 5.2. Whatever that figure is in the millions, 1.5 million to 2 million, whatever it might be. Unemployed Australians and underemployed Australians. So the 2 million figure probably includes, in my head, the underemployed figures, people who are on casual work, who are on part-time employment and underemployed. Where is the vision around skills, education, TAFE, to get these people into work that is full-time and secure? That's not there. And
778,000 unemployed Australians.
Yeah, so there's almost 1 million there, and then you've got the underemployed, was probably another million.
Would bring you up to about that.
2 million.
Important to clarify.
So, no, absolutely, fair enough. It's what I did say was unemployed and underemployed, both issues in our economy. What I'm talking about is the longer-term reform to the economy. There's a missed opportunity by Josh Frydenberg to actually invest in areas or sectors in the economy that will actually grow the economic pie. Growth and grow the economic pie, so you increase the tax base and you can actually tackle the debt and deficit down the track.
You mentioned international students. The plan in the budget, the forecast, which I guess is the plan, is that they could be allowed back by the end of this year. Full borders opened up 6 months later. Do you agree with that priority? Let's get international students in under some sort of scheme before we let everyone travel?
Well, I think you interviewed Dominic Perrottet was the New South Wales Treasurer, who made this point about the fact that the international students are so critically important for the New South Wales economy and Victoria and probably many other states in Australia as well. There really is a disappointment around the fact that the Morrison government has not taken responsibility for what is their responsibility, which is federal quarantine. And they should have done this 14 months ago. It wasn't like Voices in the Wilderness here or Nostradamus. We were saying very clearly, put resources into federal quarantine, increase the number of Australians coming back and international students eventually. And
would you agree with international students being a priority through, I mean, there's a Victorian government scheme being put forward.
Australian citizens are a priority first and foremost. The point here is because they've failed, because Morrison has failed to actually put the effort in, put the resources in, take responsibility on federal quarantine, we are now at a place where the borders aren't completely closed. There's a drip feed of Australian citizens coming back, doing their 14-day quarantine. There's not enough spaces and capacity because he hasn't put the money and the effort into setting up Howard Springs and other facilities.
Okay, look, I just want to ask though, so this priority would be international students into the country before we allow everyone to travel?
Well, I don't know I would say Australian citizens first and foremost. There are 40,000 Australian citizens who are still waiting to come back.
Let's assume they're back.
And then you're looking at what are important travel and people incoming to the country. International students, business people, trade, tourism is a massive. It has taken a massive hit out of the tourism sector.
International students ahead of the queue compared to tourism. Do you agree with that priority?
I don't know. I'd have to look at what is the most important and beneficial for our economy and our sectors to make a decision. I'm a backbencher. I'm not going to make that call without Treasury advice, without advice from our public service. What is the best sequencing of people coming back into the country that is most beneficial to our economy?
Well, maybe we'll touch base when you've delved into that and decided the priority. Peter Khalil, thanks for your time.
Thank you.